Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And this episode, we're going to talk about how your anxious brain might make up scenarios. Well, mine invented an affair. Okay. And I think this is such a maybe you're not thinking about them having an affair. Maybe you do, but something small might happen in the relationship where there's some kind of hesitation, or they don't invite you right away, or they're a little quiet, or something just feels off. And your brain, the moment that happens, is like off to the races, right? And no matter how hard you try, you just cannot seem to turn it off. And the worst part of that can be that logically, you know that you're making it up, but you cannot stop believing. Okay. Like you just are fully believing that the worst thing possible has happened. And the hard part about this is what I would call like the paradox, is that you're not making things up because you want the drama. In fact, I know from myself and the clients that I talk to, they are not about the drama at all. They're like anti-drama queens, right? And at the same time, your brain is scanning for the threats, it's filling in blanks, right? It's really just trying to protect you. And unconsciously, this is not intentional, we create the very drama that we are trying so hard with our partners to avoid, right? And that when that's activated, it is so hard to know the difference between real danger and it's just like a quiet Tuesday, right? Like it's just they're not gonna dump you because they haven't texted right back. It's like, oh, okay, it's just they're at a work project, right? And while all of this is kind of churning inside of you, you are replaying the conversations, you're looking back at the texts, you're, asking your friends, like, does this seem weird? Right? I ain't guilty of that. And you are just constantly kind of waiting for some kind of proof, or you're trying to see, well, if they really cared about me, they, fill in the blank. And you spend a lot of time and especially a lot of energy trying to logic your way into feeling better about them or with them. And a part of you really knows and is clear that they're a great partner. They've shown nothing but consistency with their actions and their words, and nothing has actually happened. Okay. So, if any of that felt familiar, you're in the right spot. And yeah, my name is Claire, if you're new here, and I'm a relationship coach. I love helping high performing, high achievers, whether that's in your career, maybe you are a corporate career ladder climber and you're working your way, or you're already in the corner office. Or maybe you're a bit of a bookworm, book nerd, you're an academic, you got some letters behind your name, Esquire, PhD. Or maybe you are multi-talented, you have a business, or you've built businesses, and well, all of that on paper, on your resume, on your CSV looks really amazing. The internal, the inside of you feels very disconnected, feels very disjointed from how you're showing up in the relationship. And you are overthinking, you're second guessing a really good partner, and maybe you're even trying your best not to self-sabotage a good thing, but somehow it's not really working. So if that's you, you're in the right spot. And if this episode or any other episode is resonating for you, then hitting the 5 stars means so much. And I'm so grateful for you doing that. And let's get into it, okay? Because I want to share with you what happened to me recently, and I'm going to go exactly into what your brain does because I watched mine do it in real time. I'll be really honest with you, okay? This is kind of like a self-revealing episode today. Happened for me in real time, literally making up with zero evidence, zero evidence. My brain invented that Craig was having an affair, okay? No evidence. In fact, quite the opposite. And just how that happened and what it was revealing to me as it was coming up. So, also, quick one-on-one client brag, because I'm going to give you some dirty details about me today, but I also love sharing some good wins for my clients. And my client S, we'll call her, She is in a long distance relationship. And when she started working with me, she was feeling all verklempt, because they were really in a navigating dating and navigating, okay, what's next? Going to be long distance. He was going to be really out of touch for a while. And she sent me a message recently, like in fact, this morning, around she had a conversation, and, phone conversations, especially when you're long distance or long distance ish, which I was with Craig, can feel really nerve wracking, right? There's like, that can feel really heavy. And it was the first time this weekend where she would get nervous prior to these conversations. And she just sent a message where she was not overthinking. Like she had, she felt totally relaxed, was not overthinking, and was able to get more and more vulnerable with him. When that's a huge win, like when we're able to actually have conversations or interact with our partner and not feel like it's on such a delicate line, or it's like one false move and like the whole evening's blown. Like huge win for her being long distance, and love that. Love that. So yay, S. Good job. So here's what I want to share today, because this feel is pretty personal, and honestly, it's a little embarrassing, but I felt, well, I should probably share this in a deeper way. So I just got back from an inner work retreat, and I've been doing this work with this nonprofit for a long time, since 2019, actually, right when Craig and I got married. And so I've been avoiding this particular in-depth retreat for years. And last year I did it for the first time. And this is my second time doing this inner work retreat. And it's pretty intense. It's basically, it's a couple weeks of prep before we embark into essentially a wilderness retreat where I go solo into the woods by myself. And so part of this retreat process, and Craig did it too, and you're probably curious, we have our own separate experiences. Yes, we're in the same retreat, but like we don't talk, we're not interfacing. In fact, I actually make a point to avoid him. Like I don't want to talk to him. And it also has improved our marriage and our relationship so much. But you do have these opportunities to briefly interact. And we went through an experience where we were basically doing a form of forgiveness work. And we were doing that experience, and Craig was really having a hard time forgiving himself in particular. And it was a small moment, not about me. It was really about his own process. And we were able to work through it. We go off into the wilderness. We're totally separated, and it's a solo experience. And I'd say halfway through, and I was already feeling a lot coming up for me. I'm an anxious person in the past, and my mind was really, it was really a tough time. It was fighting against me. I was having a hard time really accepting where I was at. The first couple days when you're with your own thoughts by yourself, let me tell you, it's a different experience. And it was all kind of culminated into, I'm going to bed Wednesday night, I'm sleeping underneath the stars, and I'm about to close my eyes, and my brain just goes, oh, no, we're gonna make up that Craig is having an affair. Because in my mind, I decided to take this one little detail, and my brain hooked onto it. It said, oh, he was having a hard time in that forgiveness experience. And wow, he must be hiding something. Why is he having such a hard time forgiving himself? Does that mean that that he is something to hide? Why is he being so hard on himself? Like, oh, well, if he's being so hard on himself, it has to be because dot dot dot. And I literally, my brain went into, he's currently having an affair. That can't be it. Or he has had an affair. Maybe that's it. Or maybe it's this, maybe he's hiding some money issues from me. In fact, it's probably all of them. In fact, it's all of them. And my brain on that Wednesday night it took me, I don't know what time, I don't have a clock, but the moon was like full blast. And I don't know what time it was. I probably went to bed maybe at 12. And I woke up Thursday morning, and it was like the storm had cleared. Because I was not distracted. There's no talking, there's no phones, there's no technology, there's you and trees, okay? And I'm so grateful for that. And PS, for those who are like, I can never do that. Like my idea of camping in the past was like the Hilton, okay? Like I'm trying to say like a five-star hotel, right? The like the well, I'm trying to think of another hotel chain, like the Radisson. By the way, not sponsored. But I would joke that camping for me is like not a night, not a five-star hotel. So this was a huge thing for me to say not only yes the first time, but to do it again. And I will probably be doing this again and again. But it was so important for me with no phones, no talking, to see how my mind was deciding something that wasn't true. And because there were no distractions, I was able to see so clearly the absolute bullshit that my head can spin. And I'm so grateful for that because truly something has changed forever inside me where, wow, that was out of nowhere. That has no grounds. And that's just literally a fully fake scenario that I'm making up. And when I see this happen a lot with my clients, and this is exactly the work that we do together, which is seeing something small happen, right? That small little instance of him having a hard time. And then, my brain decided your brain will try to fill in the blank, right? I couldn't talk to him. I couldn't talk to anybody around it, right? And then, so the brain fills in the blank, and then you create a story, right? You create a narrative. The story feels real. Okay. And then you react to the story, you react to the narrative and not the reality. Okay. And this is often where like I really see the dominoes fall, is that you start to look for evidence to confirm the false evidence, right? And by the way, fear is false evidence appearing real. FEAR, false evidence appearing real, right? And so you try to collect the evidence, right? Well, obviously he had a hard time forgiving himself. Well, that's got to be the evidence, right? And this is the hardest part, is that story, that narrative gets stronger. Okay. And you've heard me talk about on this podcast, and I have so many podcasts, like please listen to more, but how when we are in this feedback loop of anxiety, unless we know how to interrupt it, it actually reinforces it, it gets stronger. And so you think that your brain is giving you some sort of information, but it's actually rewriting fiction. It's creating fiction, right? And that difference between your own safety system responding to something real versus your brain creating this false threat, because that uncertainty, your ability to sit with uncertainty, feels unbearable. And I mean, I chose like the next level hardest thing that you can do is to actually sit with, wow, I had no choice, right? I had to sit there and really see and fully face my fear. Okay. And the more, again, this is another like layering on the difficulty here, is that the more that you engage with that story, the more that you engage with that false scenario that you're making up or fake scenario, the more real it tends to feel, right? Like we've all been there. And you find evidence, right? That it feels really convincing, right? You try to almost convince yourself of whatever false narrative you're creating. And it feels really convincing, but you're not discovering what is true. You're trying unconsciously to build a case for whatever you decided, right? That was, whatever verdict you decided. They're guilty. If in your mind you make up that they're guilty, you will find things that will make them guilty. And what was different when I was on this retreat was that there was no distractions, right? For one of the first times, I could actually watch my brain do this whole loop in real time. Like I could see the exact moment that I took that one little detail and started building a case, right? And that is something that was in the past really hard for me to see, because I always had something to fill that silence with, whether it was TV, whether it was TikTok or Instagram or, YouTube, whatever, like some kind of technical distraction, food, even, not even technical. Like I would just distract myself with like, oh, I'm just going to have a snack. So when you're constantly filling in that discomfort with whatever like distraction that you want to find, you're going to do that, right? And so one thing that I see also compresses things is that we never really stop to ask if it was based on a true story, right? That narrative, that false evidence, that fake scenario feels real because you're inside of it, right? And this is one of the things that I work with one-on-one clients is that it takes practice to see the projector, right? Like if you're in a movie theater, it takes practice to like look behind you and say, oh, that's like that movie is being projected out, right? There's a projector that's shooting the Odyssey or the Devil Wears Prada, right? Like that narrative that's getting projected out when you're staring at the screen, right? When you're staring at the screen, it feels so real, and it really can make that wiring stronger, right? When we aren't able to stop and say, oh, this is like I'm in a movie theater and I'm in a seat and I'm looking at it, there's a projector back there. Like when you're in that movie experience, it's hard to see that. And when we react to that fake scenario, it means that you're teaching your inner safety system, right? That kind of alarm system inside you that gets anxious, that when you're inside of it, it does take practice, and it takes practice to see how it really works. And you're not wrong for having stories. Like it's part of humanity. It's part of how you learned to be safe, to anticipate what could happen, right? If you were if you were in an environment at a young age where you had to really think about what was going to happen, or things felt somehow unstable, maybe one of your parents was traveling, or maybe they were emotionally unstable, that way of protecting yourself is how you learned how to protect yourself. And the thing is, when you're not wrong for having that protection mechanism, and it's also your responsibility to learn to respond to them in a different way. Okay? And I think there is a lot of talk out there on the internet around, like, internet versus reality, Instagram versus reality. And I fully know that the real work isn't about fact checking your brain's fiction, because a lot of times we're like, okay, well, I got to fact check, like let's look at how much time they're spending online, how many hours ago were they on Instagram. Like we can get caught up into fact checking, and that to me is a big distraction, right? Like, well, I got their location. Like I was talking to somebody else around that, like, you know how many people are married and they have their other partner's location, and it's not giving a full picture about the emotional cheating that's happening. I'm not saying that to scare you, but like when we get caught up in getting the facts, when we're not actually looking at how our brain is creating fiction, it's about learning to recognize that moment when your brain switches from responding to reality to creating a false reality. I think that's like the more important piece. And those are two completely different skills when you are responding to what is right actually in front of you versus responding to a false reality that you're spinning yourself into. And I think the biggest piece here is you cannot logic your way out of a story that your inner safety system is writing. Okay? It's like trying to convince yourself out of feeling a certain way versus allowing yourself to have a certain feeling, right? And so for me, that feeling was, ooh, I was feeling a little scared, right? And to me it was like my ego's way of like throwing up, it's like anything to not be present, right? And I actually, one of the things that really shifted for me that Thursday, and in fact was kind of happening on Wednesday, I was like, I'm not going to let this ruin my experience here. Like I got so clear in my demand of myself, and like what I was there to do was to practice fully being present. I really do feel like it was my ego's way of saying, no, 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 like that's like, let's just throw up some smoke and mirrors to get her to not do the thing that is actually the medicine. And so, yeah, we can't logic our way out of, this pattern that our inner safety system is has written for us. And the beautiful thing, I just want to give you a little piece of a jewel here, is that when I was without anything to distract me, when I had really cultivated that environment externally and also internally inside me to distract from the story, to distract me, that story lost its grip. Like that, it totally melted away for me. And I was able to see it so clearly. Like that was just like my mind doing anything it could to avoid actually being present, because your ego doesn't like that. Your ego wants to spin a story. And so that was like the most beautiful piece about being able to be fully present, not because I was arguing or getting wrapped up into the story, but because I recognized, oh, that is how my fear likes to react. My fear loves, loves to make up a fake scenario and run. And one of the most beautiful things, again, was I was able to really be with the discomfort, and it all fell apart. Like it all was so clear for me Thursday morning. Like, this is just how and Thursday and Friday and Saturday were like literally the most beautiful days, but I had to face some fears in a big way. Now, I'm not saying you got to go out in the woods, this was like all structured in a really safe way, but I thought it would be interesting to share that with you, because our ability to sit with our discomfort is what makes or breaks. So, yeah, and I want to do a quick little Q&A that's kind of related, but somebody sent in a message, and I'm going to grab it really fast, but the message is, my brain always goes to the worst case scenarios. This came up on TikTok. When things are actually going really well, the moment something good happens, I start waiting for it to all fall apart. Is this my gut, or is this my anxiety? And you know, I think when you are first starting on this journey, your gut and your anxiety can feel very similar, but as you learn more skill sets, as you start to deepen in the process of learning how to self trust, learning how to self soothe, learning the intricacies of what actually is happening underneath, both can feel like certainty. And the piece here that I think can really help is, again, like recognizing when you are making those fake scenarios. And the truth is, your anxious attachment, one of the functions of that is it's hard to be able to tell reality from your anxiety. And fun thing is that I'm actually working on a quiz. It's almost finished, to help you be able to tell your anxiety from, is there actually something going on in the relationship? And I've been waiting to release this because I wanted to have this experience. And of course, like now I'm like, okay, I know how I want to like make this quiz for you to be able to identify that. And I guess, the way to know the difference is to really understand how I would call it like your fear signature tends to play out. And one of my fear signatures, as you're hearing from this episode, is that like I love to take a small detail and run with it. And when you start to create focus, when you start to understand yourself on a deeper level, and not just like, oh, I have a fear of abandonment, like, okay, hello, who doesn't? But when you start to understand your unique signature, your unique way that kind of unravels, that helps you to be able, it's one of the ways that you're able to tell your anxiety from something actually being wrong. And I'm really excited for that quiz. If it's ready, I'll drop the link in the show notes below, but I have to work with my team a little bit more, but we'll see. It'll be dropping here soon. I'll let you guys know when it is ready. But your brain, the last note that I want to leave you with is that your brain is just trying to help. Okay, I just want to be really clear that your brain is trying to help the best that it can, and it is using outdated ways of helping when you're probably in need of an upgrade. And if you are listening to this podcast or this episode, you're probably ready for an upgrade. And that we can only go so far on our own. It's like, you could go to the gym and make some great progress, but like, maybe you need a trainer. Maybe you need somebody who knows a little bit more to show you what works for your body. So that being said, If you need more help, links are below. You can always send me a DM, and I'm sending you lots of love. Mwah.